All right, let's dive into a really compelling and honestly pretty controversial argument from the YouTube channel Dark Bible Stories. It claims a prophesied Black Exodus 2.0 is already happening. So the video kicks things off with this really provocative question, right? It's basically designed to just completely make you rethink everything you thought you knew about history, about the Bible. And here it is, the central claim of the whole video, that the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, they are the true biblical Israelites. I mean, that's a huge assertion, right? So what we're gonna do is break down exactly how they build the case for this. So here's how we're gonna break it down. We're looking at 5 distinct parts of their argument. We'll start with the scriptural foundation, then move into some historical claims, and finally land on how they interpret events that are happening, well, right now. Okay, first up, the argument starts with this idea that for centuries, maybe we've all been misreading key physical descriptions in the Bible. What if the text itself, paints a totally different picture of its most important figures than the one we're used to seeing? They point to passages just like this one from Revelation. The argument goes like this. Wool isn't about color, it's about the texture of tightly coiled hair. And brass burned in a furnace? Well, they interpret that as a description of dark, reddish-brown skin, which, you have to admit, is a pretty stark contrast to how these figures are usually depicted, right? So it's not just one verse. The video pulls together a bunch of verses like these to build this consistent profile. And their whole point is, if you take the text literally, it describes biblical figures as people of color. That completely challenges the familiar European imagery we've all grown up with. Okay, so from physical descriptions, the argument moves into prophecy. And this is where things get, well, incredibly specific. They focus on one single chapter that they claim is basically a blueprint for the transatlantic slave trade. And this verse right here from Deuteronomy 28 is really presented as the cornerstone of their entire argument. They highlight the specific mention of ships and being sold into bondage as a direct prophesied link to the slave trade. It's pretty direct. And this is where the argument gets super detailed. The video creates this direct one-to-one parallel. It maps these curses from the Bible, things like a yoke of iron, directly onto the specific documented horrors of the slave trade. The claim they're making is that this is no coincidence, it's a fulfilled prophecy. Okay, so you have to ask, right? If these connections are so direct, why isn't this common knowledge? Well, the video has an answer for that. They allege there's been a systematic, centuries-long cover-up to suppress this very identity. This timeline here, it lays out what they call the cover-up. They construct this narrative that spans centuries, all the way from the Council of Nicaea through the Curse of Ham being used to justify slavery, and even connecting it to 20th century US government programs. The argument is that all of this was aimed at one thing, erasing this identity. And they put a ton of emphasis on this one doctrine. They argue that this Curse of Ham was basically the main moral and religious justification for the entire slave trade, and that it was all built on what they call a willful, totally false interpretation of Scripture, all to create a racial hierarchy. All right, now the argument shifts gears in a big way. We're moving away from just history and theology and into modern science and cultural anthropology. They're trying to bolster their case with a whole different kind of evidence. So the video pivots here and presents what it calls 4 pillars of modern evidence. And the whole point is to argue that this connection they're talking about, it's not just about interpreting old texts. No, they're saying it's measurable, it's scientific, and it's cultural. Let's zoom in on the DNA evidence for a second. The video brings up something called the Cohen modal haplogroup. It's a genetic marker that's really common among Jewish priests, the Kohanim. But here's the kicker. They say this exact same marker is found in high concentrations in African groups like the Lemba people. They present this as a direct biological link, a smoking gun, if you will, to the ancient Israelite priesthood. Then there's the language angle. The video points to parallels, just like these examples you see here, between Hebrew and West African languages like Igbo. They're presented as these echoes of a shared heritage that somehow managed to survive for centuries. Okay, so this is the finale. This is where they tie everything together. The theology, the prophecy, the history, the science, to make their ultimate point. And that is that this prophesied second Exodus, it's not some far-off future event. They're arguing it's a real global phenomenon that is happening right now. And this number, 400, is a huge deal in their argument. They connect the prophesied 400 years of affliction that you see in Genesis directly to the 400-year span from 1619, when the first enslaved Africans arrived in Virginia, all the way to 2019, which was Ghana's Year of Return initiative. They frame it as a kind of prophetic timestamp clicking over.
So then the video points to all these modern signs as proof that this awakening is happening as we speak. You've got the huge rise in DNA testing, these powerful online identity movements, and then big cultural initiatives like Ghana's Year of Return. The argument is that all of it, modern tech, global shifts, it's all converging to fulfill this ancient prophecy. Ultimately, what they're saying is that this whole awakening is really about one thing: restoring lost knowledge. They frame the entire historical narrative as this massive struggle over information and identity. And they argue that rediscovering this truth is the real key to liberation. And so the video leaves us with this one last, really provocative question. It kind of wraps up their entire message about the power of identity, the power of history. And the question is simply this: what happens when a people remembers who they are?